Okay, hi guys, my name is Caroline Sona, and today I'm going to be talking to you about aliens and why I believe. So, aliens, I want to believe. No, aliens, I believe, and here's why. So, space is big, like really, really big. Like, all of these pictures are only from the observable universe, let alone the entire estimated size of the universe. The farthest spacecraft we've sent has only recently left our solar system, let alone the deepest depths of space, and no human has ever traveled farther than 1.3 light seconds from space. We don't even know if there's an edge to space. It could expand as we get closer, and then we literally never find it. If there is an edge, but there might not be. And there could also be multiple universes. So we really have no idea. But bringing the focus back to our universe, I just want to share how large it truly is. Current estimates state that the entire length of the universe is likely 93 billion light years across. And that is diameter alone. Now, to make this a little more palatable, this is approximately 69 quintillion, 51 quadrillion, and 110 trillion Earths across. Not this many numbers, but I just put some Earths there if you wanted to see. So it's a lot. So it seems pretty ridiculous to me to think that we are the only life forms out in space, because in all of space, there must at least be alien microorganisms. But those are not the kinds of aliens I'm talking about. No, I am talking about Area 51, Roswell. I'm talking about LA UFO sightings, Russia UFO sightings. I'm talking about alien sightings going back to the ancient Egyptians. I'm talking about intelligent life forms which may make or may have already made contact with Earth. Let's start off with the summer of 1952 in Washington, D.C. So, 11:40 p.m., July 12th, 7 objects are spotted on the radar of air traffic controller Henry Nugent, working at the Washington National Airport in Washington, D.C. The objects were not following any established flight paths, and nor were there any known aircraft in the area of the objects, which were located 15 miles southwest of the city. Harry Barnes, air traffic controller at the airport, watched the objects on Nugent's radar, and later wrote, "We knew immediately that a very strange situation existed. Their movements were completely radical compared to those of ordinary aircraft." After conferring with Henry Coughlin, the air traffic controller at the airport's other radar center, they realized it was no malfunction. Coughlin confirmed the presence of the objects on his radar and stated that he could see one of them through his window, describing it as a bright orange light. Soon, other objects appeared in all sectors of the radar scope. Harry Barnes called Andrews Airfield Base as soon as the objects moved over the White House and the U.S. Capitol. Andrews reported no unusual objects on the radar, but 10 minutes later, they received a call from an airman reporting a strange object. And William Brady, who was in the Andrews Tower at the time, then reported seeing an object which appeared to be like an orange ball of fire trailing a tail. It was unlike anything I had seen before. Soon, the object took off at an unbelievable speed. Back at the Washington National Airport, S.C. Pierman, a Capital Airlines pilot, was waiting in the cockpit for permission to take off. At first, he believed he had spotted a meteor through his window, but was soon told by the tower's radar that they had picked up objects close to his position. Pierman saw 6 objects through his window, which coincided with dots on the radar. As soon as he would describe one leaving, one would leave off of the radar. At the Andrews Air Force Base, Staff Sergeant Charles Davenport observed an orange-red light. Quote, "The light would appear to stand still, then make an abrupt change in direction and altitude." An object being tracked on the 2 radar centers at the airport, as well as the radar center over at the Air Force Base, disappeared from all 3 at the same time. Around sunrise, E.W. Chambers, a civilian radio engineer in the Washington suburbs, observed 5 huge disks circling in loose formation. They tilted upward and left on a steep ascent. The objects reappeared on July 26th, as a pilot on National Airlines observed objects flying above their plane. Soon after the sighting, the radars at both the National Airport and at the Andrews Airfield Base again reported seeing them on their radar. At times, the objects moved across the radar scope at speeds calculated to be 7,000 miles per hour. The objects again vanished at sunrise. Both sightings made headlines, and it was revealed by various news service stories on the 29th that the White House had issued a shoot-down order. And indeed, Lieutenant Colonel Munsell stated that, quote, "The jet pilots are and have been under orders to investigate unidentified objects and to shoot them down if they can't talk them down." No jets were able to shoot down any of the unidentified objects, though, because as they would near them, they would speed away. The Air Force attempted to calm the general public by saying that the lights may have simply been misidentified aerial phenomena like stars or meteors, which we all know is absolutely 1000% false. The radar blips were blamed on weather inversions, which were much too weak for the radar blips that were shown. And additionally, the Andrews Tower men had seen a huge fiery orange sphere hovering over their station. Though later redacted this statement, claiming it was simply a bright star, though no bright stars resided over the tower that night. According to Captain Ruppelt, the men had been persuaded a bit by superior officers. Now we'll turn our attention to perhaps the most infamous case of extraterrestrial phenomena in history, Roswell, New Mexico, 1947. Strange crash materials are found in the local field. The U.S. Air Force is called in and at first issues a statement stating that they have a flying saucer in their possession, though shortly after a new statement is issued stating that the wreckage was merely remnants of a weather balloon, along with photos of Jesse Marcel, who was the investigating officer at the scene of the crash, with the supposed weather balloon materials. The incident is then largely forgotten about until 1978, when nuclear physicist Stanton Friedman interviews several of the witnesses to obtain further information about the event. Marcel then reports that the crash was definitively not a weather balloon. He even states that it was not anything from this earth that I'm quite sure of. Friedman, following other interviews, concludes that a cover-up must have occurred. In 1994, the government tried to trick us all again and said that, yeah, there was a cover-up, but it wasn't about aliens. They told us that the materials were actually from a high-tech weather balloon being used in Project Mogul, a military operation which was trying to use the balloons to pick up Soviet messages. This, however, is not consistent with the materials found at the site at Roswell, especially the strange metal, no thicker than aluminum foil, which could not be dented even with a sledgehammer. The United States Air Force again tried to deter belief of extraterrestrials in 1997 in the Roswell report entitled Case Closed, where it was suggested that the alien bodies that were reported at the scene by civilians and military officials alike were actually military crash test dummies. However, the military dummy drops took place in the mid-1950s, which does not explain why dummies would have been found way back in 1947. The crash dummies were also 2 feet taller than the alien bodies were reported to be, but the most interesting fact to come out of this case though, was that upon requesting all files from the Roswell Air Force Base from the year of the crash, it was revealed that all records from January through October of 1947 had been destroyed. Another striking piece of evidence is that William Brazel, who was the rancher who originally found the crash materials, admitted in a radio interview that there were alien bodies at the scene. The interview, however, never aired because the radio station received numerous phone calls from the Senator Dennis Chavez as well as the FCC, urging them not to air it. Furthermore, a sealed statement from Air Force Lieutenant Hott, only to be opened after his death, revealed that the photo of Marcel with those supposed weather balloon materials was actually a hoax. He stated that the actual crash materials had been substituted with materials from a weather balloon. Sergeant Ennis, who was stationed in one of the primary receiving hangars from the debris, revealed in 2008 that, quote, "It was a spaceship. After all these years, I still don't know how that ship flew. There was no engine." Lastly, in one of Marcel's later statements, he revealed that all I could do was keep my mouth shut, and General Ramey was the one who told the newsmen what it was and to forget about it. It was nothing more than a weather observation balloon. Of course, we both knew differently. Now, if the Roswell incident does not convince you of extraterrestrial existence, let us turn our attention to the citizen hearing on disclosure which took place in Washington, D.C. from April 20th to May 3rd of 2013. As stated by the official webpage, during the hearing, researchers, activists, and military agency and political witnesses representing 10 countries gave testimony in Washington, D.C. to 6 former members of the United States Congress about events and evidence indicating an extraterrestrial presence engaging the human race. The goal of the hearing was to both convince the public of extraterrestrial existence and to impel governments to disclose the information they are hiding from the public. Among the witnesses were 10 retired Air Force members, both servicemen and officers. Also present was a former astronaut, Edgar Mitchell, a Peruvian Air Force pilot, a Uruguayan Air Force colonel, a former U.S. Congress member, a number of doctors and researchers, as well as one of the most prominent witnesses, Paul Hellyer, the ex-Canadian Defense Minister. Paul Hellyer revealed not only that at least 4 types of aliens exist, but they have been visiting Earth for thousands of years. He also confirmed that there are live extraterrestrials on Earth at this present time, and that one of the species, known as the tall whites, are currently working with the United States government. The son of the intelligence officer, Jesse Marcel, who you might remember from the Roswell case, was also at the hearing, and he attested to the same materials that his father had brought home on his way back from the crash site. Marcel Jr. attested to that same strange metal that his father had described back in 1947. Upon returning from General Ramey's office after the weather balloon cover-up began, his father instructed him that under no circumstances should he discuss what he had seen, as this is a non-event. Another notable witness at the hearings was Stanton Friedman, that former nuclear physicist tracked from the Roswell case, who first supposed a large-scale cover-up of the Roswell incident. Stanton stated, quote, "The evidence is overwhelming that the Earth is being visited by intelligently controlled extraterrestrial spacecraft." And so, it is with these facts that I leave you to decide for yours. No, okay. I leave you to decide for yourself whether or not you believe in aliens. I leave you with Roswell, New Mexico, with Washington, D.C., the Citizen Hearing on Disclosure, and with hundreds of other UFO and alien sightings across the globe. And finally, I leave you with a quote from perhaps the most convincing figure of all, Fox Mulder. The truth is out there. It's really quiet, but the X-Files theme is playing. Thank you.